Welcome back, everyone. This is Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, here with another video. And this one comes thanks to a question I received from Zan on Discord, I believe from Boone yesterday, where we got to working with a bunch of armament boxes that he was holding on to. I currently have 5 in my inventory, but he had well over 150 in some instances and wanted some pointers on where to put those equipment in order to get the most out of them. And with the amount of information we went over together, I felt it was beneficial to go ahead and make a video that went over some of the basics that we talked about yesterday. So shout out to Zan for prompting me to make this video. And with that, let's get into my notes here. Noted, these are primarily going to be for free-to-play people. All of you spenders out there that can buy as many of the equipments as you want, I have something separate that I'm working on for you. I have a bit of a spreadsheet that I'm hoping to get out hopefully in the next week that helps people figure out how to hone their equipment to the best of whatever they're planning to do. But give me some time to finish this one. Back to basics, though. One thing that people don't notice, at least when I tell them about it, it confuses them. Each equipment starts off, especially, let's assume purple here. Each equipment's first stat is the same across that equipment type. All vests, regardless if they are infantry, leader, ranged, or rider. No, I'm not going to be talking about overall. If you're a free-to-play player using overall, that's on you. But let's just get a couple of examples here. I have infantry vest, has infantry squad blocks. Rider vest has rider squad block. Ranged, squad block. This is across the board. All pants boost lethality. All boots boost basic attack damage. So just going down the list. Helmet is all block. Vest, block. Backpack, counter damage. Pants, lethality. Boots, basic attack damage. I know I'm missing one. Oh yeah, guns, or crossbows or whatever, are lethality. So you have 2 that boost lethality, 2 that boost block, 1 for basic attacks, and 1 for counter damage. You can actually go ahead and equip the type of hero that is best going to use that stat if you're trying to figure out, like, say I have a gun and I'm trying to work on both an infantry and a ranged team. Neither of them have a gun yet. Of those 2, which do you think is going to benefit more from having higher lethality? It's going to be the ranged, because that is a boost to damage. Infantry doesn't have the greatest damage, so they're not going to benefit as much from it. But ranged, having any kind of damage buff, is a lot more potent on them. On the flip side of that, if I have a vest that gives me block, do I want to put that on the infantry team, or do I want to put that on the ranged team? You're going to put that on infantry. They're going to benefit more from having the higher block. Reducing damage on a team that can already heal itself is pretty substantial. Granted, in my mind, lethality is a better stat than block, but I'll go over that in a separate video. Let's get some examples of what changes between the different stats depending on which one we choose. And I'm glad I kept at least one box for these. Here I have backpack. Backpack we know gives counter damage, but the second stat changes depending on which type of bag you're using. Here we've got attack, infantry squad attack, infantry squad defense, and basic attack damage taken by minus 0.6%. These change for each troop type, but each of the 3 has the same stats, if I'm not mistaken. you have your attack, defense, and basic attack damage taken in all 3 of these. So you can pick and choose what works best for that troop type. For me, since I know counter damage is best used on an infantry troop, I would build a bag for my infantry. And of these 3 stats, because I know that my infantry is primarily going to be hit by large amounts of skill damage, basic attack damage isn't going to be a big factor for me. So I'm going to take the additional defense to stack that as much as possible, which will also lower basic attack damage, but also affect skill damage, if that makes sense. And I'll go ahead and use this. I've got the 5 bags. I'm gonna go ahead and max that out. And now I'm working towards upgrading the bag that I have already, which will make it another star higher. Speaking of ranking up your bag or your equipment, getting to that first star on each of your equipment is extremely beneficial. More so on purple and gold, obviously, but having not only does, say, if I was trying to upgrade this, not only do the basic attributes get increased, but on the very first star, you unlock another hone attribute. And I'll go over that later in the video, but hone attributes stack up quickly. Having a bunch of these different hone attribute effects additively buff your units, it adds up. So yeah, I could have 2 of this bag on 2 different heroes and only bring out 1 on the field at a time, because I'm only going to bring out 1 leader, let's be honest. Or I could have a 1-star bag that has 3 hone attributes that makes the 1 primary leader that I'm using that much stronger. Hopefully that makes sense. Speaking of hone attributes, there's a lot of them. If you can actually click on hone attributes down here and see all of the different stats that you are capable of getting just from honing these attributes. The lowest is what you'll get for green. The highest is what you'll get for red. Like, I have a squad lethality buff in gold, and that's only 31. It can get as high as 60. Sadly, those primarily come out when you're using the more expensive hone chips, but it still gives you, looking at these numbers still gives you a good idea of what the range of the stats are. And it does vary depending on the rank. Notice how there was a bunch of 5s and 6s, as well as 60s and 75s here. It's not the same with purple. I really hate that it's that much of a difference, because purple only getting 4 hone attributes that maxes out at 2%. I can just sit down and do the math right now. Assuming only the first 6 at 4 hone attributes is 24 hone attributes maxed out. With 2% on each is 48%. Gold can have 5 at 5% at 5 on 6 pieces of equipment, so 30. And it's up to 5%, which is 150% if you stack a single attribute. See the difference? If you can get gold, get gold. If you can star up gold, star up gold. Have your secondary set of equipment be in purple and your primary set be in gold, so that you're not focusing on gold for 2 different teams. I could complain enough about the variation in stats here, but I'll try and move on. As for which ones you should be focusing on, as a free-to-play player, I'm going to assume that you're not leading a rally or leading your own garrison. Now, garrisoning your own shelter is completely different. However, I wouldn't stack your attributes to plan for garrisoning your own shelter, because that ruins your capability on the field. For example, if you did manage to get a red garrison basic attack damage buff on one of your heroes, you can't use that in the field. If you wanted to pull that hero out and actually be able to do some damage, that's 6% that's wasted. You could, however, take, if it's an infantry squad, take that same 65 infantry squad block or infantry squad lethality and be able to do more damage on the field, and it still work for you on garrisons. So unless you're just that much more powerful than your peers and actually running rallies or garrisons, I would avoid all of these. Unless you are using a mixed troop, I would avoid these. It's a very simple numbers reason. Squad attack buff 4.5%. Infantry squad attack buff 5%. It may only be a 0.5% difference, but it does add up. You can use it, and if you need to hold on to chips for whatever reason and you come across a squad buff instead of a specified buff, you can hold on to it and work on getting rid of some of the other more useless ones, but when you get a chance, those shouldn't be there. If you have enough money to be able to boost gathering speed on any of your heroes or damage dealt to zombies and experience on any of your heroes, power to you. I'm poor. I need my heroes to be able to do a variety of different things. Gathering speed ain't it. And I can kill zombies in seconds as it is, so dealing additional damage to zombies is kind of pointless to me. Although I am curious what would happen if you stacked a bunch of damage dealt to zombies against a hive mind. How quickly would it die? That's a story for a wallet warrior. Squad travel speed is a little bit interesting because there are instances where you want to be fast, and 7.5% on a single hone attribute is massive. That can stack up. I know there's bound to be some people in Bounty Ground that have been pumping squad travel speed because there's no reason for them to be that fast. And on the field, getting in and out of combat with a good rider team or with a farm hunter is huge. You don't need to hit hard to kill a farmer. You need to be able to get in, kill them, and get out. And travel speed does that. So unless you're running a speed demon build, I wouldn't touch squad travel speed. So that leaves you with the different lethality buffs, the different block buffs, and the stats. I'm really upset that HP isn't up here, but I digress. Lethality is more important than attack. And that's because at the end of the day, lethality is a damage buff. If your lethality goes over their block, then you get a damage bonus that is, it's a flat percentage per point, is what I've come out to. Now, I haven't done enough testing to verify that number, so I don't want to give you false numbers. But just know that lethality is more valuable than just stacking attack power. You can use both. And because lethality can be canceled, I wouldn't completely stack lethality without having some attack power. But when you are fully min-maxing your character and you can get to that point, if you have a ranged team that you're really trying to pump out as much damage as possible, pump that lethality. And then when you get down to it, get rid of that ranged squad attack and pump more lethality. Hopefully that makes sense. The last thing I want to mention is that there's a lot of you aren't going to dismantle things. I do. Like I'll show you right now. I'll get to, like, I don't use these. I'm going to dismantle them. However, if you are going to say you're trying to dismantle a bunch of stuff all at once, and you want to make sure that the ones that you plan on using for whatever reason don't get dismantled, there's a lock button up here. If I were to lock this, I can't select it. Even if I click all, I can't select it to be dismantled. Like I can come in through here and click anything that I'm not currently equipped with and plan to get rid of it. But if I lock one, it prevents me from being able to get rid of it. So if you have a gold gear, I believe it automatically locks it. But if you're holding on to purple gear, like here, I'll go ahead and do this now. So you have that. And then I'm going to go ahead and select multiple and get rid of the ranged, the rider, and the rider helmet. And I'll pick up these. It's not a lot, but it does add up over time, especially with the radar event rewards. And I'll hop down here to the armament shop, and this week it's about guns. I'm not going to get a lot of use out of guns. I have one already, but it's a lethality weapon, if you remember. I come here, it's infantry squad lethality. So I'll hold on to my 570 things right now and wait for next week when this item changes. It'll change again in 3 days. I can come back. I believe it goes to helmet next. I'm not sure. So don't quote me on that. But with that, that's some basics about armaments. If you have any specific questions or want to ask me in detail about some of the things I'm working on with it, please let me know in the comments or reach out to me on Discord. I'll make sure and put that updated link in each of my videos from now on. So if you're trying to get into my Discord page, check my most recent video. The most recent link will be in that video. I'll also go ahead and put my Patreon down here as well if you'd like to reach out and support me, because I think by the end of all of this spreadsheet will end up getting locked behind, getting put for my Patreon subscribers first before I think about putting it out to anybody else. I will go ahead and put this out for this first page out for everybody when I get it all said and done. But the rest of the sheets I'm working on down here, I think is going to be for Patreon only. So if you would like to be able to see this whenever it does get released, head on over to my Patreon, support me. I'll make sure it gets put on there, hopefully by the end of this weekend. It's been a lot of work. But with that, this is Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, signing off.